With the Melbourne skyline as his backdrop, dual Tour de France winner Chris Froome started his season.
Chris Froome is making a start in the Jayco Herald Sun Tour.
Just 8 seconds off the pace, Froome confirmed his position as the man to beat. In a repeat of last year, Will Clark took the first yellow jersey, a mere 0.88 of a second ahead of Caleb Ewan. Stage 1 and the race is already into the hills. Hillsville and an 8-kilometre climb up Myers Creek Road, the peace and quiet of the Yarra Valley will be disrupted by the race for yellow. And while many focus on Froome, a long list of young Australians will be out to grab the world's attention.
And the riders now on the opening road race stage of the 63rd Jayco Herald Sun Tour have moved away from the city of Melbourne. We're now out in the country in the beautiful Yarra Valley, and it's here where the hills abound. It's the place also, of course, where you can come enjoy the great wineries and restaurants. Hello everybody, I'm Phil Liggett. Welcome back to our coverage of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. I'm joined by Scott McGrory. Well, today is a real battle because what we're doing, Scott, there's only a 1 second margin. But a second won't be enough today.
It's a very different race than what we saw in the prologue time trial. Will Clark is in a commanding position. We know he has short-term power. We saw that in the prologue, but it's a whole different ball game out here in the hills around Hillsville. So it will be the riders like Peter Kenyard, I think Damien Housen. Look for the two Hamiltons as well, Lucas and Chris. They're not related, but they're very, very strong and they love to climb. And of course, Chris Froome. We're waiting to see what his climbing legs are like. And there's a nasty climb over 7 kilometres that tops out 20 kilometres from the finish. And I think that'll be the first real test of this year's tour.
That's right, and it comes at a crucial tactical point of the stage because once over the top, a quick descent comes right down to the finishing line here in Hillsville. But we can't write off Will Clark. Yes, last year he led at this stage and he lost on Mount Macedon, but there's no Mount Macedon today.
Well, today's climb's not as big as that is for sure. And look, he showed good form yesterday. I'm just not sure. It really comes down to the climbers themselves and how hard they want to tackle the first Category 1 climb that we have towards the end of the stage today. If they really want to light it up, it might be too hard for Will.
All right, well, let's start straight away with the Victorian government talking tactics. Here's Pat Shaw.
Talking tactics today for stage 1, Hillsville to Hillsville. We start out, everyone's going to want to be in that early break. You've got to be tough and want to have a go or you're not going to be there. Froomey, will he light it up from the last climb? I hope not. I want 20 to the finish. Hopefully I can get a result.
So let's now take a look at the Herald Sun course report and the map for stage 1 of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. It's over 126 kilometres starting and finishing in the town of Hillsville. And a slightly lumpy course for the riders today as they head north to start with before coming down towards the south. There are 2 intermediate sprints, the first of them in the town of Warburton and also the first of the King of the Mountains there as well. Second intermediate into Hillsville and then the nasty climb coming towards the finish. So let's see what some of the riders think about today's stage.
Yeah, I think there will be a very slick group at the top of the climb. I rode it the other day and it's super tough and it just keeps going. It's gradual into it and it kicks up a bit at the end. So yeah, I think it'll be very hard up it.
Outside of your team, who's the man to beat today?
Probably Canal or Froomey. Probably Canal.
His name keeps coming up. Do you think you can win?
It'd be a hard ask for me to win, but look, I'd take it for sure.
Yeah, we come and had a look at it about a month ago now, so it's a really tough course. There's not much flat road out there today for the 126k, and the last climb should be about 20 minutes or something, so it should be that'll decide the day.
So the riders know what they've got to do. Certainly the day is on their side. It's a beautiful day. There's a hint of sun around and there's no wind to speak of. Jack Bobridge, the Australian champion here on the front row, and happy smiles and 3-time winner of this race, John Savaro. We're on the way and it's now out on the biggest stage of the race thus far, 126 kilometres.
Short by European distances, Phil, but a good way to start the season for someone like Chris Froome. And the big question, I guess, is can the man in yellow, Will Clark, the fastest man over the 2-kilometre prologue course, and some good luck there from Chris Froome as well. Shake of the hand. And just see if he can get that big frame of his over that final climb today.
Smiling far right, Will Clark, the wearer of the first leaders, yellow jersey after his stunning prologue time trial sprint in Melbourne South Bank. to win for a second year, but he didn't make it through the second day last year. He's hoping better things will come his way. Rolling out as always, neutralised for about 3.5 kilometres. Once we're outside of town, the flag will come in.
Well, Caleb Ewan, perhaps not the perfect stage for him because of that final climb. There are still a couple of stages where we'll see his sprint come out. John Trevorrow, the race director, holding the red flag, just coming to kilometre 0. So the red flag comes in. Race is officially now on. And not too much action back there, Phil. In the main field, they look as if they're quite sedate at the moment.
Well, it's a very difficult course, this, indeed, Scott. We're looking at the legs here to Peter Kenny, the British champion, and won the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Classic last Sunday. He could be up in the mix today. Well, why not ask Jack Bobridge what's going to happen today?
The first 5k at least, because I know everyone's going to go crazy for the breakaway and there could be a little bit of wind out there. So, and then obviously the 20k point I think is pretty crucial, and it goes crosswind for a while. So hopefully the break's gone by then and everyone's settled down a bit. But first stage, who's going to control it is sometimes it's a bit of a guessing game.
It always is, but these boys are out of control because we've hardly gone down the road more than 5 kilometres, and there are 6 riders here coming together.
But you can see behind now as well, the gap has opened up very quick. Ben Hill there with the cyclist term for let's get going, just the pump of the fist, riding for the Ataki Gusto team, new Taiwanese team. Now 6 riders out in front, you can see here, Phil. Now back in the main field, there's not too much action, and everyone's looking at each other to see who's going to take up the chase. It's the responsibility of the Drapac team because they have the overall race leader. And at some point, no doubt, Drapac will come to the front.
First climb of the day as we pass the vineyards here. Froome zoom, and you can see him right now, but he's on the front of the pack. He's not in this leading breakaway of 6 riders. They're making progress pretty quickly here, which means, look at that, 3 minutes 40 in a couple of kilometres.
6 riders that are out there now that are well established. Giacomo Bellato from the Trek Sigafredo team, Nick Katsonis from the State of Matter MAP squad, Alistair Slater, the British from JLT, and then Ben Hill, as I mentioned, from Ataki Gusto, Craig Evers from the Data 3 squad, and also Christian House from the One Pro cycling team. This is Damo Harris. He's just in charge of Nick Katsonis. Change of colours, change of sponsorship for that team this year. Let's see what they can do throughout the rest of this stage.
Well, I think they're being advised now. They've committed themselves here. A long way to go. There's 2 climbs to come. The first challenge will be the sprint in Warburton, followed straight away out of Warburton with the first second category climb of the day. All of the children are aware of the race passing through this region because they've all been let off school to see the race go by.
I think Christian House might be, I guess, the leader of the breakaway group, trying to marshalling the troops. He is such a specialist at this kind of move, going in the early attack. Some difficulty towards the back here, though.
Yeah, it's a problem with his Duralia gear here at the moment for the rider from the Kenyan team Down Under. I've got a feeling a bike change is going to be required.
And that is Nathan Elliott. You can just see some sort of problem. Looks like the chain may have just flipped over the jockey wheel or the cage of the rear derailleur. So just needing a little bit of assistance. They should be able to get that sorted. And at this point, he is allowed to hold on. Technically, you're not supposed to hold on to the car, Phil. When you're getting mechanically serviced, it is a bit safer just to keep your balance. Now we can see the Drapac team coming to the front. Also Team Sky putting only 1 rider up there. It's not their obligation to do the work, but they know they do have the big favourite in this man, Chris Froome, and also Peter Kenny just behind him. He had fantastic form last week at the Cadel Evans race.
Well, 3 riders in the breakaway have started the day only 9 seconds behind the yellow jersey, Will Clark, after the opening time trial. So he's got to keep his team up front, and he's got to hope now that they can monitor that breakaway of 6, which at the moment is gaining time.
All the teams now forming up towards the front as well. Elliott having a bit of a problem, so he hasn't been able to solve that, and now a change of bike needed.
I think his Duralia gears have jammed up there. It's a new bike for him, but he's got a quick change, premeditated. He's back into his rhythm straight away. Now these are the leaders. They're making steady progress out towards Warburton. Time is on their side, but they're being... Oh, look at that. My goodness me. Christian House was in a spot of bother there.
Shake of the head. You know what that expression means as well. Not happy with that. He was so close to the guardrail. You can see the slow motion now here. You can see Katsonis on the left, just gets the angle a little bit long, locks up the back wheel, and then has to go straight. And for Christian House, he is a very lucky man.
He certainly was. Katsonis locked up his back wheel there. Anyway, they've all come back together again. Still 93 kilometres to go. A little bit of a shock there for the British former champion, Christian House.
Well, he got the heart rate going, that's for sure.
Absolutely. But it's all down to Drapac now, and they have to take up the chase. That's the problem when you've got the leader on your team. It's your job to do the chasing.
And that also adds a little bit of extra pressure on the man in yellow, Will Clark. Let's see if he can stay in yellow for the rest of the stage.
And on this second day of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour, the riders can hide away from the world in the Yarrow Valley and the Dandenong ranges. This is the famous Puffin Billy. He cruises the Dandenongs. You can also spoil yourself with premium food and wine, selected accommodation, boutique shops and galleries, and of course the stunning scenery which abounds here and is always pleasant for a walk or a bicycle ride. And that's just about what the riders are doing now, because this sextet got away after 5 kilometres today, Scott, and they're still holding off the peloton, but the peloton, as we come into the sprint in Warburton, is closing in on them. This is a good sprint though, because there's a small time bonus on the line. Craig Evers is heading up the field here. Looks like Benjamin Hill is having a go as well. It's going to be tight on the line, this one.
Well, it was a really long sprint. It's still going, but no, it was Evers that took it out in the end, just in front of Hill, and Slater was third. The challenge now is, though, as we can see the replay, went from a long way out, Craig. Ben Hill trying to come down the other side of the road. Slater's just hanging on for some points. But there are time bonuses here, 3, 2 and 1 seconds. So Craig Evers did collect the 3 seconds on offer, just in front of Ben Hill. And then that was Slater picking up the 1 second in third. But as soon as they go through Warburton, they virtually go straight on to the first of the categorised climbs. So let's see how those two guys can tackle the hill now after putting in such an effort in that sprint.
Well, here's the main field now coming through Warburton. They're over 1.5 kilometres behind those 6 riders at the moment. We'll suddenly turn right out the town. We'll start the climb of the day, the first one, which is quite a tough one up through the rainforests. Everybody enjoying the occasion and everybody looking to see, can they see Chris Froome? Well, at the moment, the answer is no, not in these 6. These boys now are trying to consolidate a lead. I think they'll be a little concerned that the main peloton are not really allowing them to go clear.
Well, they capped it at around 4 minutes, didn't they? Then they brought it back and just held the group at around 3.5 minutes, which is maintainable. You can see Slater now on the front from JLT Mavic Racing. And coming into a little bit of difficulty, 500 metres from the top now. We can see the 2 riders that were contesting that sprint in Hill and Evers just struggling a little bit, but it is only that 500 metres to the top, so they should be okay. Although there are points up for grabs for the KOM, and it looks like it's Bellato coming across the top there. So he picks up the first of the King of the Mountain points, so he'll be in the provisional lead of that competition.
Katsonis in second place so over there. 20 points in the Budget Forklifts King of the Mountains there. He's our first leader, Bellato. And this has been a crash here. These boys have been off the road and they're in the breakaway. This is Katsonis straightening his handlebars. He looks okay. He's got himself back on his bike.
Well, he certainly has gone down. You can see the blood streaming from his left elbow. It was Craig Evers that just got up and got going when we first saw that camera shot. Seems fairly composed. There was a little bit of blood there, and you can see the peloton now coming over the top of the first K of the mountain.
Well, as they go over the top here, they're going to have to watch that descent. They're exactly 3 minutes the gap as they cross that line. And now they will face that same descent. It's a very sharp left-hander midway down. This is the feeding station now. Grab your bag on the run. 51.3 kilometres still left to ride.
We can see Katsonis is back in that group, so he made his way back to the rest of the breakaway group. Let's see if he feels any worse for wear later on. Craig Evers also there. Can't see any blood coming off him, so he may not have touched down. He might have just stopped when Katsonis went down.
There's another crash at the same point, and this is back in the peloton, and this looks like Lucas Hamilton here.
Well, speaking of blood, there was a lot of blood coming out of the left elbow of Lucas Hamilton.
And sitting on the ground there at the moment is Patrick Sharp as well from St George Merida. Oh, this is a shame.
Well, Hamilton really has hurt himself. It's very unfortunate. Spoke to him before the start of the race. He was looking forward to the climbs of the Yarra Valley. One of the favourites. We thought he's only a young rider at 19, but certainly can climb.
No, that's a great shame. And as the riders continue here, they've regrouped. We're getting reports that in fact those two riders are going to hospital, so they're out of the race. That really is sad for Lucas Hamilton and Sharp as the race continues up front.
Well, there was Caleb Buell there just picking up his musette, his feed bag from Sponsor Danny Clark. Christian House, shake of the head, not too happy about what's going on.
Well, Christian House has done it all before here. The rider just slipping down the inside of Giacomo Bellato. But they're still holding it together. But I think they will feel at this stage of the race they are not going to get much further, because this peloton, now it's in the control of the Sky team, have really started to chase, and they've never allowed that breakaway much of a chance.
You can see how much they're strung out now, and all the teams have towards the front of the peloton have formed up together to look after each other, and you can see at the back some gaps here. This is the intermediate sprint coming into Hillsville now. Christian House on the front, the veteran British rider. Ben Hill trying to come over the top of him. Look over the shoulder from Christian House. Ben Hill does get past, so he picks up the second of the two intermediate sprints. Now this is at the actual finish line. The first time they come through it, it's the intermediate sprint. The next time they come back around, it's after the terrible climb that they have to face going up Mount St Leonard. And it'll be a very different configuration by then, I think, Phil.
Virtually onto the climb here. It's a steep first category climb as well. They're showing a sign there of 2 minutes and 5 seconds, the gap now. But you know, at the moment, Craig Evers in that breakaway, he's pulled up 4 seconds in time bonuses. Started the day 9 behind Will Clark, so he's now only 5. Drapacher also trying to save the day for the man in yellow. Clark has got all of his boys in red around. Well, if you're not a climber, that's not a good sign. King of the Mountain start, because this is a very tough climb indeed. And the boys know now they're racing for home.
My Mitchelton diary entry today is with the boys in the car driving out from Melbourne, and the boys are asking, are we still in Melbourne? Are we still in Melbourne? And then all of a sudden we came over the hill from Lilydale and we saw the vineyards, and I was like, boys, now we're in the Yarra Valley. Yarra Valley is my home training ground. I love it out here because you've got the climbs, you've got the wineries. It's the best of both worlds. So, you know, unfortunately it doesn't suit me per se, but I love it out here nevertheless. So I'm looking forward to a great day out here, and that's my little entry for today.
And very nice it is too. Mitch Docker there, who lives in this region. Well, these are the boys heading the race up the climb of Mount St Leonard. They've been in the lead now for over 90 kilometres, but the main field are always closing in, and the pressure on this long drag is telling.
Well, Ben Hill the first to crack. Craig Evers trying to go over the top of him to get back onto the lead group. But this is not their terrain. You can see the riders out in front being led by Bellato. Christian House is doing a little bit as well. The start of this climb, Phil, it's 8 kilometres in length, but the first 1.5 kilometres is really just a bit of false flat, not so difficult, but now you can see it really starting to ramp up. And already riders at the back of the main field starting to get into difficulty.
Yes, they're packing now at the back of the race here, hanging on. They don't know how the riders are going to attack this climb. 1 minute to go. Craig Evers, though, is now losing his grip with this breakaway. Soon there'll be only 4. The man who won, finished second rather yesterday, number 1 here, Caleb Ewan, lost by a single second. He's coming up the climb here.
Now this is the onboard GoPro vision from Caleb Ewan. You can just see he's decelerating, riders coming around the outside. This is the life of a sprinter when you get onto the big climbs, unfortunately.
Maybe the day will be for Caleb tomorrow, but certainly not this long drag here. They've got a very quick tempo, and those non-climbers under terrible pressure at the back here. Jesse Kerrison just going through 1:34 off the back. This is his teammate Nick Castonas, and he's trying to move away here. He's put the screw right down to try and break this group up. Desperate moments because the field are closing in.
Well, they're coming very quickly. It's Team Sky on the front of the main field. Berlato and House have joined forces there, and you can see the main field now just around the corner. We saw the time gap of 1 minute. I don't think that counts anymore. You can really see it's only a couple of 100 metres.
Now, we're not all that far from the top, a kilometre or two, and the field is coming, but that's not the whole field. There's a lot of black jerseys of Team Sky there, including the white jersey of Team Sky, which is Peter Kenyuk, the champion of Great Britain. They are coming for these boys, and this is a decisive move.
I saw a couple of other black jerseys that are the Avanti racing team as well. Jonathan Clark from United Healthcare as well is also in the mix, and then the big tall rider in the middle from Orica Greenwich, Damien Housen. But it is Sebastian Henao from Team Sky absolutely driving the tempo for Chris Froome and Peter Kenyuk.
Well, this is a World Tour team here, and it looks like they're executing a plan. Christian House looks across, he's seen the move here. Damien Housen in white is trying to control Sky, but just now they've lifted this up to a new speed level. This is a huge effort here to try and break up the field. This is the only chance of the day they've got. Once we get to the top, it's 20 kilometres more or less in the descendancy.
Well, you can see the urgency here on the body language of Boswell, absolutely driving it out of the seat as well. This is like a lead out you'd see coming into a bunch sprint. Damien Housen out of the saddle as well, just trying to hold on to the wheel of Boswell.
Two World Tour teams head to head here. Boswell for Sky, Housen for Orica Greenwich. He's just tucked in here. He was finished in 5th place overall in this race last year, and he intends to do well again. He's going to be hopelessly outnumbered at the moment. Chris Froome has got into this move, 4th man down. That is an incredible performance when you think this man hasn't raced for 5 months, but he knows exactly what the team has been instructed to do.
Well, Joe Cooper is the rider in 3rd position from the Avanti ISO 18. The yellow jersey is in trouble. You can see him at the back of the group. Also, Jack Bobridge, the Australian road champion, in difficulty as well.
Bobridge sitting on the wheel there of the yellow jersey. Well, once again, the man they call the horse, Sir Will Walker, isn't able to match these high-speed thoroughbreds on this particular climb. They're trying to prise open a gap at the front. It looked to me as though there might be 6, 7, 8, 9 riders trying to get clear of the field. Bobridge here is a long way down this line.
Now it's still Boswell, and here we go. Chris Froome, the first man to attack, straight over the top of his teammate Boswell. That's Johnny Clark trying to go with him. He almost took Boswell out as he went through on the inside. No, but it's too fast for Clark. He cannot get onto the back wheel of the Tour de France star.
Well, that was a great move by Johnny Clark. He almost preempted the attack by Chris Froome, but he couldn't match his speed. Here we go again. Watch the rider in the blue and white. He saw Chris Froome make this move, got through the gap just about. This is a planned move here. He almost took out Ian Boswell, as you say. Now, Froome is alone here. This is absolutely amazing. Chris Froome, is he testing the race, or is he simply testing himself for the months ahead leading to the Tour de France? He's got a gap, and nobody behind looks as though they can react.
Well, the one rider that does appear to be coming across is the white jersey, the British national champions jersey of Peter Kenyuk, Chris Sky's teammate. Look over the shoulder. He can now see if he's coming across or not. He is. The gap is closing down. Two riders from Sky, the dynamic duo, Kenyuk and Froome, now coming together at the front.
Huge effort by Peter Kenyuk here. He comes across the gap. Froome knows he is coming. This is a big test for Chris Froome now. He knows that the champion is hooked up. Two teammates together, different jerseys. And now he's almost saying, are you there? Are you ready? Let's go. This is totally premeditated. Jack Bobridge on the back here with the yellow jersey.
Well, struggling at the back, the race leader, Will Clark, out of the saddle, trying to get back towards that lead group. You can see just how tough it is for the big man. He's such a powerful rider. That's what he showed yesterday. But out in front, completely different type of riders. The two climbers, Chris Froome and Peter Kenyuk, really showing everybody how to climb.
Welcome back to the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. We are, of course, now within the beautiful Yarra Valley here. Best seen from a hot air balloon, I think, taking in the sublime scenery of Hillsville and the Yarrow Glen vineyards. This is where they produce some fantastic wine and great beer as well. But inside 20 kilometres to go, these two riders have made a move here. Tour de France champion Chris Froome and the Tour of Britain champion Peter Kenyuk, his teammate, have launched an attack on the climb of Mount St Leonard, and they put the yellow jersey of the race, Will Walker, in trouble. But one man here for the first time, and indeed the first time for Kenya, is this rider, and he's learning the ropes.
When you think of Kenyans, you normally think of middle distance runners, but now they're taken to the bikes. And they've got a team here at the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. It's Kenyan riders down under, but the one Kenyan on the team, Suleiman Kangani, he's a big climber and he could have a huge future in front of him.
It's not going to be easy because people have not really accepted cycling back home. Like the runners like who are talented, they still see running as the main source of income or the main sport. But we have so many runners that, you know, like don't make it to the top, and hopefully they'll switch to the bike.
I think he's climbing pretty good, Sui, so he'll be looking to get up there on the hillier stages and test himself against one of his fellow countrymen, Froome, I suppose.
What's it mean to you to ride with Chris Froome here?
It's one of my dreams, maybe like recent dreams, but it's a great honor, but I still want to be competitive.
I mean, cycling in Kenya has been fighting a big uphill battle to get to where it is now, but it's still got a long way to go. But just the fact that we've got three Kenyans in this race, I think it shows that there are things happening there, which is fantastic.
We still feel him like a Kenyan. Like, yes, he's British, but we still see him as a Kenyan. Even when he's like there on Moment 2 or climbing those climbs, we still see him as a Kenyan.
Did you do any middle distance running at school when you were in Kenya as a kid?
Yeah, I did, and I got absolutely thrashed.
So let's see how they go making the transition to the bike.
No, definitely. I wish them all the best.
And the best of luck to Suleiman Kengangi, but right now these two riders are hammering out a message. They're throwing the gauntlet down for the rest to follow, and I just saw in the distance there, it looks, Scott, as though three riders are trying to catch up with Froome and Kenyuk.
Well, Johnny Clark is in part of that three-man group just behind. Also Damien Housen from the Orica Green Edge team. And riding for the Quarter-Mentha Australian team, it's Ben Dybel. Very good climber. There's Ben Dybel going through now. So three strong riders trying to get across. Haven't opened up too much of a lead. It's only around 10 seconds or so. Once they get over the top of the climb, it's 20 kilometres to the finish. There's a good chance that these three can combine together well and bring back the two stars out in front.
Well, these two boys have scorched over the roads of the Pyrenees and the Alps in the Tour de France. The high cadence pedalling rate of Chris Froome, so familiar in the month of July, but now he's trying to get his form to take him to that month this year and on to the Olympic Games in Rio. On his handlebars, an extension there, the face of a rhinoceros. He chooses to fight for the survival of that animal which faces extinction in Africa.
Well, this is starting to look like a motor pace session for Peter Kenyuk, just trying to hang on to the wheel of Chris Froome as they go up the climb to Mount St Leonard. It's also Myers Creek Road. The locals know it as Myers. This is Group 4 now. Will Clark really starting to struggle, getting dropped by that group. He's just gone so deep trying to hang in there, and he's unfortunately gone into the red for too long, and finally he's popped.
He's about 2 minutes down now from the head of the race here, Will Clark. He knows he's not suited to this climb, this very long climb, the first category mountain at St Leonard's. So he's going to have to get it home as best he can. But what it does mean is the candidature is open now for the maillot jaune, the yellow jersey. The groups are coming together here, but they're not catching up with those two leaders.
Well, that third group that came through, it's the group behind the three chasers, behind Froome and Kenyuk, and that was Joe Cooper from Avanti Racing. It was leading them through in front of Jack Haig. Now, this is this group here. It does look like the two chase groups have come together. Cooper on the front, Jack Haig. He's just defending now for Damien Housen. He has a teammate out in front. Actually looks fairly comfortable on the bike. Just behind there is Robbie Hucker from Avanti as well. So lots of Avanti riders represented here. Giacopo is also there. And the Australian Quarter-Mentha team is Chris Hamilton as well. This is Group 3.
Jack Bobridge is trying to replenish the damage here because he was at the back of the bunch lower down the climb, trying to catch up with that immediate group which is forming now behind Froome and Kenyuk. These two boys aren't that far ahead, 15, 20 seconds maximum. And I've only ever seen Chris Froome do the work here with his high revving legs. Kenyuk, who's on good form, will be a big ally for this man as they continue the climb.
Well, I think that's a badge of honour on its own, just to be able to stay on the back wheel of Chris Froome on a climb like this. I don't think Chris expects any effort to come from Peter Kenyuk. He's happy to drive the pace all the way to the top of the climb.
Oh,
the question was asked, Phil.
Yep.
What was Chris Froome going to do? The opening race of his season. This is the first road race that he's had for 2016 and the first real climb of the year, and he's just put the smack down.
And this is why I feel it's a test. It's not an attack against the race. It's a test for himself to see how he's coming along. And he's passing with flying colours. It's incredible. These are the three chasers. They're still clear.
Dybel for the Quarter-Mentha national team, Housen from Orica Green Edge, and Johnny Clark, the man that tried to go. He reacted when Chris Froome attacked, but just didn't quite have it in the legs to stay with Froome. Now finding himself in a very elite second group, a chase group. They're riding away from Group 3 on the road, and they're kind of holding these two. 200 metres to the top of the King of the Mountains. We wouldn't expect to see much of a sprint between these riders at the top, but they do know that it's 20 kilometres virtually all downhill from this point now.
Well, such are the points. There are 24 points in the Forklifts King of the Mountains here, and whoever gets it will pull on the leader's jersey in that competition tomorrow. There they are in the distance. These boys are only 13 seconds behind. Housen will take inspiration from that, and I have to say that Jonathan Clark is riding superbly. He's really been out of Australia for 5 years as a racing cyclist. He comes from the suburbs of Melbourne, but he races in the USA.
Well, he knows these roads very well from his off-season when he's back here in Australia. He spends a lot of time training around these roads. He knows how hard they are. Look at the grimace now on the face of Peter Kenyuk. They're almost at the top of Myers Climb.
But he's thinking just another 100 yards. I've just got to stay with this one. He's not going to challenge his team captain here. He's going to go over the line in first place. So tomorrow will be only his third day racing the Sun Tour. He'll be in a leader's jersey, Chris Froome, and it'll be the budget Forklifts at leader as the King of the Mountains.
If this pair can stay clear, one of them will take over the overall race lead.
Chris Froome and Peter Kenyuk have made their move now. Can they hang on to the finish of this second day of racing in the Jayco Herald Sun Tour? The champion of the Tour de France, the champion of Great Britain have joined in tandem. Their teammates, and in theory now, Scott, it's all downhill to the finish.
It is, and it's also the first time we've seen Peter Kenyuk actually come to the front. Now they've gone over the top of the climb. And here's the chase group of 3. Ben Dybel, third rider over the top of the Mount St Leonard's climb. Johnny Clark just behind him and Damien Housen. The gap was only down to 15 seconds at the top, and this is the elite third group on the road, being led by Joe Cooper. Joe Cooper, incidentally, has the Strava segment record for this particular climb on 20 minutes. He did it a couple of weeks ago. We'll see how that goes today after the racing conditions.
I wonder if he's got it now. There was 11 riders in that next group, not very far behind these 3, so they're not out of it yet, and neither are these 2 up front away for glory, because they know they are being pursued, and the others will now start to breathe deep. They were just about to come around the corner there. We're going down at 75 kilometers an hour. Chris Froome is still driving at the front, and as far as we can tell, that's where he's been ever since he put in the attack.
The first part of the descent is fairly straightforward, as you can see, long straight roads, but then the second half it really does start to wind down, as these 3 riders really now need to take the advantage, work very well together on the open roads to try and close the gap to the 2 leaders.
Well, through stunning countryside here in the Yarra Valley as the riders continue to fly towards Healesville. Now we've got Kenyuk at the top, taking now his team captain, Chris Froome, as they head down towards the finish. It's still a little way to go. It's still a knife edge. Those boys behind are around about 15 seconds. The familiar signs here from Chris Froome. He starts to nod his head and flex his legs at high speed.
Well, the third group on the road that was led by Joe Cooper over the top, they were 50 seconds behind these 2. So this group of 3 chasing, they've ridden away from the third group as well. So it is a strong combination. Damien Housen now coming to the front to drive it forward. You can just see, they can see they're almost there because they're so strong, those two riders out in front, it's going to be still difficult to try and close it down.
But they've been in this situation now for over 10 kilometres. They're not getting any closer, but they're not losing either. But these two riders are at 15 kilometres to go now as they start going down through the twists. The descent continues, but this is a very, very safe and very quick drop.
This is the second half of the descent that I was talking about earlier, Phil. It gets very windy. It's a beautiful stretch of road to ride up or down. At the moment, it's Jonathan Clark that's leading the chase group, and Ben Dybel starting to look like he was in a little bit of difficulty trying to hold onto the wheel of Clark. Meanwhile, out in front, the two Sky riders working very, very well together. Kenyuk in front, the British champion, Tour de France champion Chris Froome sitting in second position. Beautiful terrain as well. They're not taking any notice of the ferns they're going through, but it's a fantastic forest as well.
Well, you can see from the gum trees the blackness of the fire, the tragic fire where people died here of 9 years ago. Now the life is returning to the mountains, but the scars will always remain. This beautiful piece of countryside as Peter Kenyuk now leads the charge down. Chris Froome just wisely making sure he's seeing the road for himself, not hiding in the shadow of Kenyuk, because those boys behind are still coming.
He looked a little bit awkward through that corner though for him, didn't he? But he still held right onto the wheel there of Peter Kenyuk. And the oval chain rings as well, bumping up and down as he goes. Oh, here's a problem. Ben Dybel having some sort of issue here, so the chain has come off.
Oh, that's really bad luck. That's incredibly bad luck for the youngster from the Australian national team from Corps de Menfa.
Schramm at neutral race support coming up to give assistance, but they can't really do anything until he stops. Chain is all locked up, so how unfortunate for him. And you can see the gap is closed right down. It must be only about 4 seconds between the two lead groups. Very dangerous situation here for Ben Dybel, just trying to flick the chain off the rear derailleur. It's all caught up.
Totally jammed. That's a new bike.
Needs to dismount at least to try and unhook the chain. So that's his chase gone. Unfortunately for him, 10 kilometres to go, and it looks as if it's going to come back together.
Two riders up front, a flick of the arm from Kenyuk saying, come on, Chris, they're coming up behind us. We can throw a blanket across 4 riders here. It is far from over this, and Froome has now knocked it up another notch here. He's not allowing these riders to cross the gap, and it's 2 riders against 2 now, as it's 8 kilometres to go to the finish, and unfortunately the chasers have been weakened by the loss of Dybel. His chain is jammed up. He's fallen back to the chase group. These two boys chasing 2. Welcome back, and what a pursuit this is turning out to be. They are still clear, as they have been now for about 15 kilometres. 4 kilometres out, the 2 men from Sky and the 2 chasers have not given up yet. John O'Clark at the back and Damien Howson in front.
Well, I can't believe this, Phil. They were almost there, Clark and Howson, and that's when Chris Froome looked over his shoulder. He saw the 2 chasers almost on their back wheel. He went straight to the front and absolutely drove it. And you can see now the gap is starting to open up again.
Well, these guys are knocking the kilometres out at 1 minute a time, so they're just about 3.5 minutes from the finish, and if anything, they're pulling away now. That was a long camera shot. I didn't see the chasers, and that's inspired Chris Froome, and now they're doing short turns. They're helping each other. They are really running to the finish like scalded cats.
Well, it's great to have 2 teammates together out in front, because there is no issue with tactics. It's just bury it. They go through 1 kilometre to go. The gap is now opened right out. It's about 15 seconds as they approached 1k to go. And the third group on the road was closing down on Howson and Clark.
That's right. They're making the left turn now. I'm not sure the other 2 are going to make it just at the moment. I think Kenyuk saw it as well. Froome has put his head down. He's grimacing. This has been a huge test for the man from the Tour de France, but he's passing it with flying colours. Can they survive just 500 metres to the line?
Final look over the shoulder there from Peter Kenyuk. Now the question is, are they going to sprint it out? Who's going to go for the stage victory between these 2? Froome, he rode all the way on the front up the climb. Then Kenyuk came to the front, out of the saddle now as they come towards the sprint.
Well, as they start the sprint here, remember that Froome has got the lead now in the King of the Mountains. Is it going to be the Peter Kenyuk, 5 seconds down overnight, is going to take the lead in the race itself? Sky are the winners, first and second as they salute the crowd, but it'll be Peter Kenyuk in yellow tomorrow. The sprint and Howson surviving, but for how long? He's just 200 metres to go. The field are closing right down. He's been wiped out. 150 from the line. Bobridge in the yellow sleeves, but it is Dion Smith of New Zealand and One Cycling who gets the third place.
Well, I think Dion maybe thought that he was getting the first place then. He really did react as if he'd won the stage, but it was third. First across the line for the peloton, but these two superstars in Froome and Kenyuk out in front. What a performance it was on 3 minutes and 7 seconds further back. The yellow jersey, or now the former yellow jersey of Will Clark, crosses the line.
But there's the tandem from Sky. Just watch this now. Peter Kenyuk is the next leader of the Tour. Chris Froome salutes him. It was a great tandem. Let's join Matt Keenan with the leader.
Peter, it's been a perfect start to the season for you. The win on Sunday and now yellow.
Yeah, awesome. Much better than I expected. Obviously, the race last week, I think, gave us quite a bit of confidence going into today. And we had a good plan for today's stage, which worked out absolutely perfectly. So it was just to make it hard going into that last climb for Froome to have a go, and then I was just to follow wheels and then sort of judge the situation if I felt like I could jump across to him, do that. And then, yeah, massive thanks to the team and especially to Froome, because once I got across to him, I pretty much just sat on his wheel the whole way up the climb. But then once we got over, I was able to, you know, do some good turns with him and take it to the finish then. So
it sounds like you've got a good domestique on your side.
Yeah, I could say that.
Yeah, good day for us out there. I mean, that climb wasn't super selective on paper, and I think a lot of people were expecting it to come back to a bunch sprint, but we don't really have any sprinters here, so we thought, well, we don't have many opportunities here, let's just give it everything we've got. And the guys did a fantastic job setting it up. They made it as hard as possible on the early slopes, and then I took over, and I guess a really nice feeling also being able to give something back to Peter Kenyuk. I mean, the number of times he's emptied himself for me out on the road, and he's been part of both of my Tour de France victories. It's nice to be able to do something for him now.
Tactically, what was the winning moment?
I would say once we got onto the flat, because I'm not sure how long we had over the top of the climb, but the guys behind definitely must have got on the motorbike on the descent. But once we got onto the flat and the motorbikes were out of the situation on the descent, then we just pulled away again. And I think that's 5k to go. When we hit those little rollers, we kind of had a good idea.
Well, he's won again, and he's won in as many days, because 4 days ago he was the winner of the Cadell Evans race as well. Peter Kenyuk in yellow, and this is Budget Forklift's King of the Mountains. Chris Froome has got the lead in that, Scott.
No surprise there, the way he rode over the Category 1 climb. Bellato picked up points early on, and the Chain Reaction Cycles sprint leader, or points jersey leader, is Peter Kenyuk in green.
He's equal on the top with Ben Hill. It's probably Ben Hill who will wear the green jersey tomorrow, because Peter Kenyuk has other commitments to the yellow. As he gets the champagne ready, oops-a-daisy, that's an expensive camera lens, and Peter Kenyuk leads the race now by 7 seconds over his teammate Chris Froome, 23 over Dion Smith of New Zealand, 25 seconds over Robbie Hucker, and 26 over Joe Cooper in 5th. Well, what a great finish here in Hillsville, and Peter Kenyuk continues a great start to the year. But what about Chris Froome? The second day of racing in his 2016 season, and he already looks like a Tour winner.
He does, doesn't he? Look, I think if there was any other riders out there that had illusions of grandeur, the dynamic duo from Sky put them back in their place. But look, for Froome and Kenyuk now, I think they can actually cool their jets just a little bit in the next couple of days, and now prepare for the big final day on Arthur's Seat.
Well, tomorrow a little bit easier for them, but longer, 144 kilometres. We leave Yarra Glen, we go into West Gippsland, and we finish in Moe. Undulations all the way. What next, I wonder? We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.